Guys, we are back. Last week, guys, I apologize. We missed 2 episodes. We had a lot going on. No excuses, but we're back. We love you. We miss you. Guys, we have a lot of stories. Connor's here. Viva's here. Humberto, Brandonian. And guys, I'm just going to go through the stories really quick, and we're literally jumping in. Like
Swan dive.
Swan dive. It's 100 degrees out. The pool's nice. We're going to jump in.
Cannonball.
Naked, brother. Cannonball. Don't tell me. Old school. Right?
Yeah.
No,
Anchorman.
Anchorman.
Damn it. I got the actor right. But anyway, guys, we're going to be talking about Canada. And it's been cooked. Now they cooked it, and now they put it back in the oven.
It's over. It's
like refried beans.
It's on fire.
It's
overcooked, recooked.
It's over, guys. It's over, and we got a couple thoughts on that. Humberto's going to be talking about the Pope and the situation that's happening in Italy. Brandon's going to be talking... Huh? The Vatican.
It's their own country.
Its own country. Well, they need to relax, okay?
Yeah.
Brandon's going to talk about the $35 trillion that's missing from our country.
Misplaced it.
Misplaced. That's what you want to call it. And Connor, 100 men versus a gorilla. That's I've been
The rumble in the jungle is going down on the internet. Apparently.
Okay, well, guess what? The real question is, will they actually get a gorilla and actually let this happen? Not the Mr. Beast shit, but we'll get into that. Anyway, guys, mass deportation, Donald Trump, first 100 days. I gave him a B- yesterday. I think it's going good. We're going to see a bunch of results as we go. Me and Jake were talking about earlier about some of the stuff. Like yesterday, he was sitting down with the ABC guy. He was crapping on the guy, but when he said the MS-13 was tattooed on the guy's hand, it actually wasn't. It was symbols that translate to MS-13. It wasn't MS-13. So Trump
They're going to fact check him.
No matter what,
for the rest of his
life.
life.
For sure. Well, remember what I said. If Donald Trump, and with the help of Elon Musk, stopped an asteroid from hitting Earth, and they saved the day, the next day, CNN, MSNBC, all these leftist pundits would be like, they'd complain about asteroid pollution and debris. They wouldn't give a shit that he saved the world, but that's how it is. I get the game. Anyway, dude, with this mass deportation, which I'm all for, remember, and since we reported here first, the MS-13 guy, Garcia, they're like, he's a father. Turns out he is a gang member. Yesterday, the ex-boyfriend or ex-husband of the girl that he's with, he put a restraining order on him to his kids because he was violent towards them. Anyway, he is a gang member. Long story short, the judges, have you been seeing, because Donald Trump has a mandate by the American people. We voted for Donald Trump. Do your job. These little Democrat, liberal piece of crap judges that are placed in here, bro, that are running interference are insane. The first one, Judge Hannah Dugan from Milwaukee County. She was arrested on April 25th. By the way, look at this face on the right. Look at her face. The guy on the left is the other judge from New Mexico.
Joel Cano on the left.
Cano. But look at every time you hear a story about this, they all look like that.
Huh?
Is it just me? She doesn't have any top teeth, apparently.
That's a swamp creature.
That's them. That's what they all look like. But anyway, she was arrested, charged with obstruction and concealing an individual for allegedly helping an illegal immigrant, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, evade ICE agents. Okay, so guys, this is what happened. She's on the bench, okay? Ruiz is on trial for misdemeanor, battery, and domestic abuse, okay? He beat up a woman and the man, beat the guy, like hit him 30 times when he was on the ground. They're both hospitalized. They're in court, okay? And it's not easy. You know this as a lawyer. It's not easy to have both defendants.
No, but just appreciate domestic abuse. Kilmar Abrego is not an alleged wife beater. His wife filed a complaint saying that he gave her a black eye, threw some boots at her, abusive, scratched her. A definitive, bona fide by his own wife beater. Everyone that they're defending and hiding is a wife beater.
It's beating women.
It's like it's a trend with them.
Besides the gang, and this is the party that loves women. Believe all women. We love women. So this guy is on trial. This is the judge. Dugan's the judge. Bro, the defendants show up to the public, and that's not easy, bro. They have to come face to face. A lot of people don't like doing that because they feel for their lives. They show up. ICE shows up, okay? She finds out that ICE is there. She goes off the bench, yells at them in the hallway, and tells them that they have to go talk to another judge. While they leave, she grabs the illegal domestic abuse immigrant, puts him in the back with the lawyer, Brandon, and she sneaks them out a back door. Do you?
She thinks she's like Schindler from Schindler's List, or hiding Anne Frank in a roof. Like it's a noble thing. I've got to save this illegal alien wife beater who's in front of me right now on domestic abuse charges and battery, and I'm gonna treat him like Anne Frank, like an innocent victim of persecution.
And you nailed, dude. Great analogy, but flipped. But bro, people are in your courtroom. You're supposed to be about the law and justice. You're supposed to not be biased. And you sneak out the guy that is basically guilty for beating the shit out of these two people. Do you understand? Like, bro, you're a judge. What goes in your brain where you're like, I'm gonna virtue, and this is gonna be my moment. You stupid idiot. And she's arrested. But by the way, Kelly, show this video. This is her storming out of the courtroom because she was arrested. Can you play this video? This is her. Look at her. No, hey, where are you going?
Judge,
Where are you going?
anything to say about this?
No. Can't talk?
Hold on. Why does she have one of these black limousine vans
Yeah,
for
by
security?
the way, she's chilling.
And is that a security guard that
Who do you
she's
think
got?
that? Who's with her? Look at that.
I swear to you, I genuinely believe that these judges, Joel Cano, Dugan, that they're involved in something sinister. Like I don't want to say something sexual because it's very weird why they would put themselves out to this degree. Joel Cano, I believe, quite clearly was exploiting his illegal by using him for cheap house labor and giving him room and board and fix my stuff for free. I won't pay you under the table, just won't pay you. Helen Dugan,
It's slavery.
Like, it's modern day slavery, but Dugan, that holy crab apples! Like there's something more nefarious going on than just self-righteous idiots who are activist judges. I think.
I tell you what it is, and it's not like a cult or like we're living and they're enforcers of the system they're putting in place. It's called an anarcho-tyranny, all right? Anarcho on the bottom echelons of society, like the poorest, everyone that is an illegal, criminals, everything. They can do whatever they want. Like, you were surprised that he was getting battery charges and they sneaked him out.
Yeah.
It's because when you're in that level of society, it's anarchy. You can do whatever you want. You will never get in trouble, all right? And the upper echelons of society, like the top 5%, the top 1%, they get to do whatever they want too.
Of
like
course.
2008, Brandon. They got bailed out of taxpayer money.
Yep, we paid
Nobody
them.
said anything. All the bankers, they paid themselves, bonuses that year. So if you're in the top 1% or the bottom 5%, there's no rules, no nationalities, no battery charges, no nothing. And we there in the middle, we people that go to work, pay their taxes, we're squeezed between these two groups. Like, you can always get either jail by the top or you can get murder by the bottom. And we're living in fear. That's what it is.
When things are irrational, though, I mean, like, think of if you were to blackmail anybody, who would be more valuable to blackmail than a bunch of judges, a bunch of federal
That's
judges?
the best ones. What do you mean? Because everything goes through them. And bro, by the way, this is like she sold out the country. She sold out everybody in her county and her state. And it's like, bro, she belongs in jail, and that's it. You're a traitor. You are an actual traitor.
The only thing that would have made the story funnier from a tragic perspective is if she had forced the illegal into the witness box with his alleged victim. Like, say, hey, hold, just keep me here for 1 second. I know you guys don't get along, but we've got to find a way to get this guy out of here.
Well, look at the guy they had on trial, the guy she helped out. He hospitalized 2 people. First of all, how is that only a misdemeanor?
Yeah, exactly.
This is Wisconsin, right?
Said he beat up a guy, punched him in the face 30 times. Like, that should
Milwaukee.
be should be more than a misdemeanor domestic battery charge.
Yeah.
But let's say hypothetically ICE had never arrived to pick this guy up in Judge Dugan's courtroom. Do you have any reason to believe that she would have given a fair punishment for that?
Absolutely
It
not.
would have been a slap on the wrist.
Or slap on the face, if we're
Poor little guy, if only he'd had access to more social programs growing up, maybe he wouldn't have been like this. And that's where you particularly see it in people in these positions who are women, but it's hard to say it's just women because, like we talked about, there's also Judge Cano who's housing illegals in New Mexico.
I'm about to mention
But
his ass too.
It's the finger-waggling, misplaced motherhood instinct of, no, this illegal domestic abuser is not actually a bad guy. He's just a hurt little puppy, and if I cradle him to my ample bosom, he'll be better.
Yeah.
And that's why you have these bloated blob deep state liberals who take these activist positions in courts who decide, oh, I'm gonna nurse everybody back to health. I'm gonna rehabilitate all of them
And
to,
you're not.
with
And
me.
it's
The amazing thing is, like, she's got security, so quite clearly that she's not worried about the criminality on the street. I don't know what that was, but it is what Humberto was saying. Is it Jack Posobiec's book Unhuman or Michael Malice's The White Pill?
Unhumans,
where they were talking about anarcho-tyranny, and it's the way they create like chaos
That's what they want.
for the purposes of domination.
Yeah.
The 1% on the top, that judge doesn't have to worry about it. Judge Cano might be in on it. The criminals get coddled like babies. They get in and out of prison. And then, you get the George Santos who gets sentenced to 7 years in jail for fraud, which is a serious thing, but not commensurate to the physical violence nature of the crime. And yet it is a way to divide, conquer, create crime crisis, so that you could then impose government control on everybody.
And great point. By the way, you think she's the only one? This is the one that got caught, guys. They're all over the place, all right? And just really quick, the next one, you mentioned it. New Mexico judge Jose Joel Cano and his wife, Nancy, were arrested on April 24th for harboring Christian Ortego Lopez, an illegal immigrant suspected of being a member of Venezuelan gang Tren del Agua. Suspected. He's in. He's been living with the couple's guest house and working as a handyman. They found evidence linking him to the gang, including tattoos, clothing, social media posts. He was arrested in February for illegally possession of firearms. This Cano admitted to destroying his phone, this guy's cell phone, with the hammer, believing it contained incriminating evidence.
Are you gonna? I don't know if it's on your notes, but that on the alleged gang member's phone were videos and pictures of decapitated bodies and
of
the like.
everything. Yeah,
this was reported. It's not my news.
What is this?
It's
Like where you want free labor this badly? You have a
That's how bad.
You let a gang member be
bro,
your slave?
I tell my wife, bitch, get in the kitchen.
Brandon,
I don't want.
unironically,
Felipe can cut you up.
unironically, yes, that is literally the answer. If you look at how the far left talks about immigrants, it's literally just for slave labor. They talk about, how can you deport them? They're the ones who pick our crops and clean our toilets.
Yeah, that's the mentality.
Yeah, it's because you want an imported servant class who will also continue to vote for you and keep the natural-born population of this country terrorized. That is what it has always been about. It's about replacement. It's about terror. It's about free labor.
I mean, would you feel comfortable with a killer in your house?
Absolutely. But what kind of
he's gonna fold your socks when he kills people.
Yeah, Brendan, great point. And Kelly, play this. This is his wife. This is Judge's wife. And the guy's the gangster, allegedly gangster. Look at this. He's having her play with the gun. Can you play this? Play it. Look, she's like, she's in her pajamas. She's in her jammies. Mira, es un gun. Mira, Mr. Judge. Mira, you got a sniper rifle.
It's like Christmas.
Yeah, what? Bro, and Kelly, what else do I have on here?
They feel so young, like they're fraternizing with the gang members.
Yeah, this is her.
I've never held a gun before.
I'm sure they were fraternizing.
Yeah, go ahead. And by the way, this is her. She's probably, go, you can play it. No, she's like, no, what do you mean? I never held a gun before. I wanted to play with the gun.
Oh,
look at this
God.
shit.
It's
Harboring
mind-blowing.
literally a gang member with a rat. Dude, you have no idea. You can get off the couch. What this person has done. We are at a place in this country, and I'm telling you right now. The damage hasn't been done yet. This is bad. You haven't seen the real damage of the thousands upon thousands of Chinese nationalists, terrorists. Guys, I'm not a fearmonger. I don't live in make-believe land. The real shit hasn't hit the fan yet. The 20 million, I believe, 20 million, the real number. Who's the bald guy that's in the Stephen Miller.
No,
Stephen Miller.
Yeah.
All these guys. The real numbers that you don't know, Tom Homan has said it, it's anywhere from 15 to 20 million. Wait to see when the real shit hits the fan, because this invasion hasn't really hit yet. And what pisses me off is, bro, Trump has never had a shot to run the country. And I get it. Every president comes in and the whole shit is messed up. Not like this. Not a 20 million person invasion. The last time he was in, fake Russia collusion that they still talk about. He hasn't had a fair shot to run the fucking country, bro. He is working backwards. He has to go fix the mess. He has to stop the bleeding. He has to try to fix the fucking economy. It's like, give me a break, bro. And I'm coming to you, Viva, because I want to get for your Canada story. Do you guys understand? Whoever the Democrats bring in, I don't care what Bernie Sanders, what AOC, whatever, shining light's gonna emerge from the Democratic Party, they're gonna open the border, all right? They're gonna let all this shit continue. I'm telling you guys, everything is gonna become undone. That's why the Democratic Party is the worst fucking party. I'm not a Republican. I'm right in the fucking middle. I'm starting to lean a lot more towards the other side because I want them to ask an AOC, ask a Bernie Sanders, ask a Gavin Newsom, if you win, are you going to open the border back up? Guess what they're going to say? 100%. And then we have to keep dealing with this shit. Go ahead, Viva Frei.
No, I was going to say, they'll open it for the climate crisis because of our selfishness. Now you have climate refugees. But no, people have to appreciate they've tried to impede Trump's ability to govern with the Russia collusion hoax, impeachment number 1, impeachment number 2, and now they're using activists on the bench to prevent him from being able to be president by way of injunction after injunction. There were never any injunctions when Obama, Clinton were deporting illegal immigrants.
Never.
And now I don't know how many there are. He cannot govern because you have activist judges who are usurping the role of commander-in-chief and are usurping the role of the executive. And it's about time, at least the most egregious, get cuffed and hauled off to jail.
Good.
Apparently, one of them is out on bail now. I think it's
out on bail, yeah.
Dugan. Dugan is out.
But good, because I want to go to Viva because we're on time.
Oh, yeah, well,
but good. Arrest all of them. I want all of them to get locked up. Every judge that's trying to be a sneaky piece of shit, go to jail. Dude, when I saw her get arrested, I was so freaking happy. Good, because you know what? What do we hear for 4 years? No one's above the law, and neither are you. Anyway,
but yeah, the party that tried to lock up the president. But speaking of
great countries that are doing great, Canada elections, Viva.
So the results are in, people, and the Globalist WEF, Davos attending, Bilderberg invitee, Hoor, 3 passport carrying Hoor.
Who doesn't even live in Canada? Well,
now he does. He had to move back to Nepean because you have to win in a riding in order to become prime minister or sit as prime minister. There were other ways around it. We had the election, and what went from an 80 plus 90% favorite for Pierre Poilievre, we saw the inversion, the candlestick inversion, and he went to be the underdog, and everyone was like, don't worry, Viva. It's just the polls. Polls are inaccurate. Don't worry, it's just the markets. Markets can be influenced. We had the election, and the Liberals won. Mark Carney won. We went from being a country that was run by Justin Trudeau, who had been penetrated by the cabinet, to a man who is the literal definition of a globalist pig. He is a globalist banker. He sweeps in after corrupt Justin Trudeau, after his 10 years of terror, 2 ethics violations, resigns in shame and says, we'll have a robust leadership race. They haul in the Globalist, who had been advising Justin Trudeau for the last 5 years. If anyone has any doubts, you can go to the WEF website, where on his bio, on the WEF website, it specifies how he had been advising Trudeau informally for the last 5 years and formally since 2024.
So they kick out a guy, Trudeau, because of how horrible his policies are. That's the guy in the shadows, and they know it's him, and they still voted him in?
Well, that is the question, whether or not they knew it was him. Because,
bro.
The Canadian media wasn't exactly hyping up the fact that this guy is a WEF stooge.
Scumbag.
Pierre Poilievre, not to his credit, to his detriment, didn't mention the words WEF, globalist, all that much during the election.
Pansy.
We'll get to him in a second. So they lost. The Conservatives, some people are going to say they gained seats and, it's still a net positive. They blew what was supposed to be a surefire election, faced with a decade of corruption, ethics violations, tyranny of the Liberal government. And now we've gone into cope mode. So the bottom line, the election is now over. They're still counting some ballots, and I'm predicting something chicanery is going to be afoot because the Libs are now at 169 ridings. Canada sort of like what is the number in the States? 272 for the Electoral College?
270?
270.
To win?
270.
You're saying to win?
Yeah, to win.
Yeah.
It's 270. In Canada, because of the amount of ridings that we have now, it's first past the post. You have individual ridings. Whoever wins that riding gets that seat. We now have 343 seats, ridings across Canada for members of parliament, up from 338 because of massive immigration to Canada. And so the number was 172. You hit 172 ridings, you get a majority. 2 days after the election, the Libs are up to 169 now. The NDP, which is the other party that the left of the Liberals, totally imploded, but they've got 7 seats. And I believe that there's going to be something of a coalition partnership where you're going to have an absolute majority, Libs and NDP. If the NDP don't just do what's called crossing the aisle, just become Liberals. They can literally, without any formality, become Liberals. You're going to have another 4 years of rule of the Liberals, open borders, crippling inflation, housing crisis, legalizing drugs, overdoses, fentanyl crisis, border crisis. Because Pierre, arguably but not arguably, ran the worst campaign in Canadian history.
Question. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask a question. if this guy opens up the border, because the reason that we're tariffing the shit out of Canada is because of the border and the shit that they've helped destroy, trying to ruin our freaking country. If he comes in and he lets that happen and more people are trying to pour into our country, I'm not saying it's an act of war, but if you're trying to infiltrate my country with fucking people that are killing Americans and could potentially harm us, you're the enemy. I don't give a fuck who you are. Canada's talking tough with their 15,000 soldiers. Like, how? In any other scenario, this country would have been taken over a long time ago because they're weak, they're soft, their leaders are pieces of shit. Like, they're just lucky because they're attached to us.
You have a militarized border with America and Mexico because of the problems.
Yes.
You have a border which is basically like an honor system with Canada and
Honor
America.
system. It
It won't stay like that for very long. Like people always say, well, only 1% of the fentanyl crossing the borders comes from Canada. That's only because a lot of it's getting through because it comes through on train cars and there's no militarized checkpoints like there are on the border with Mexico.
Question though, so
Please.
what are the odds that Saskatchewan and Alberta can secede from Canada and become part of America?
So, no odds on this. I mean, there's a process subsequent to the second referendum or move for independence in Quebec because they did one in 78-ish and they did one in 95. And after that, the Supreme Court issued a ruling that says this is how it has to happen if you do it going forward. You got to put a clear question to the population for a referendum. If the referendum is successful, then you've got to basically submit for approval to the federal government, the Federation, the King, the Queen, whomever. And the question is going to be, the move has never been, or the sentiment has never been stronger. I mean, the Wexit, Alberta, Brexit.
And this is like the Texas of Canada for people that don't know, right?
It is the natural resource hub of
Alberta?
Canada. Yeah, Alberta.
And conservative.
And conservative. And exploited and brutalized by the federal government. They pay up their taxes to the federal government that then redistributes them to the so-called poor provinces. And Alberta has crippling, environmental legislation imposed on it by the carnies of the world who want to reach net zero by 2050. While they take their revenue and then disperse it among the maritime provinces, which are the so-called poor provinces, because they don't exploit their natural resources. The sentiment of first separating has never been stronger, but the process is 6 months, years. I mean, that's assuming it doesn't get blocked up in the courts. So, but the bottom line is, people are making excuses. Conservatives are entering the cope level of tragedy, like Trump cost Pierre Poilievre the election. And I'm getting some fights online where it's like, Trump with the tariff talk, it was a move. It wasn't Trump doing that cost Pierre Poilievre the election. It was Pierre's response to that. Then you got people saying, well, he couldn't take a really Trumpy-ish stance because that would be unpopular in Canada. Viva, you don't know how it works. Pierre was at 90% in the polls when they were comparing him to Trump. They've been comparing him to Trump for years. And so to say now that he couldn't do it, that's arguably what made him popular, not being Trump-ish, but being a more brash type conservative in Canada. Come election time, he turns into something more left of Carney. Like Carney was more centrist, talking about immigration, talking about border issues. The conservatives were saying, we'll go from 500,000 immigrants a year to 250,000 immigrants a year, which wouldn't even start resolving the problem. It would just, curb the exponential increase of the problem. So it's upsetting because it looks like even the Canadian conservatives are sort of, I say, behaving like DeSantis conservatives in Florida in terms of A, not owning up to where the failed campaign was, and B, getting really, really obnoxious with the people who were pointing out the weaknesses in the campaign in real time and saying, no, Viva, you don't understand. It all's going to according to plan. Oh, shit, it's Trump's fault.
Let's they do this thing by brute force, though, with Alberta, because I'm obsessed with that right now, because if they did it, then the rest of Canada would essentially shrivel up and die because they need Alberta.
Yeah, or some might say, or the other provinces would start tapping into their natural resources to become self-sufficient. But brute force, you can open the border to Albertans who want to join America, but if it's the resources that America would want from Alberta, that would make Alberta the jewel of Trump's eye. That
how's their premier there or whatever? Like the
Danielle
governor?
Smith, oddly enough, she's pretty decent. She goes and meets with Trump. Poilievre doesn't go to meet with Trump because he doesn't want to look too Trumpy, even though the media has been saying he's Trumpy for 3 years.
Well, she declared we're now part of America.
She has given basically a 6-month ultimatum to the federal government, whichever one it was going to be, to meet certain demands. I don't know what they are offhand, but it's basically, we're going to exploit our natural resources. If we have to defy federal overrule or oversight, we're going to exploit our natural resources. But just the amazing thing, and didn't get mentioned very much during the election, Carney was advising Trudeau to implement these environmental. He's a climate crisis dude, like giving speeches at Davos about how we need to go net zero, while he simultaneously, through his corrupt Brookfield Assets Management investing in dirty energies in Brazil and the UAE. And when pressed on it, he's like, yeah, well, each country has their role. And it's like, so it's just a double standard. No, it's a jurisdiction issue. Canada can afford to go crippling green energy. The other countries, developing nations, they don't have the science or the technology yet, so they can't yet do it. So while we tell Canada to go cripple itself, I'm going to go invest in these countries. So the seats. We can bring up the ridings here. This is just to show you where we were at as of the other day. We're at a majority, liberal majority, if they coalesce with, or just have 3 NDPs just switch parties. NDP is left of liberal, so it's not even like it's not like going liberal to conservative. It's not like going even more radical NDP to conservative. You just cross the aisle. Now you got a majority, and now Canada is thoroughly cooked.
And you made a great point, like Pierre Poilievre. The only moment, because I'm not deep in Canadian politics. The only thing where I was like, oh, was when he was eating that apple, kind of pretentious, but at the same time talking shit and being Trump-esque to that guy. That was the reason why I'm like, okay, this guy has a shot. But when you don't do podcasts, when you kind of just disappear, when you don't face the fire, and dude, get your ass out there and win the vote.
When you let your adversary dictate your tactic, you're going to lose. That's what he did. He let Canadian media browbeat him into being a shadow of his former self.
He's done.
Thinking he was going to get in the good graces of the media that he had promised to defund if he got elected. I mean, it's nuts.
And then loses his seat.
What was the second? By the way, so he did lose his own seat. That's what I wanted to show you. What's the next one? Is the next one the ballot?
And then Connor, I'll come to you.
What's he going to do next?
Yeah, look at this. Look at this, by the way. So Pierre Poilievre lost his own riding in Carleton, and I'm not saying this to make fun of him. For whatever the reason, there were 91 candidates on the ballot.
That's the ballot?
Wow.
That's not a map to Timbuktu.
I thought it was a receipt from like a nightclub that like Live.
It actually looks like the movies that you could get at a movie store type thing. That's the ballot. Now, people have explained that it's a protest ballot. They get a bunch of independents to protest the first past the post, which is like you win a riding by 1,000 votes or 1 vote. You get that, and it doesn't necessarily reflect on the popular vote.
Yeah.
But the fact that 91 candidate ballot was in Carleton, which was Pierre Poilievre's riding, something is suspicious about it. I'll figure it out eventually.
Okay.
What was the third? The third one that we had up there
What's the next one, Cal?
was the WEF. So it's not also just that Carney is a WEF stooge. The media, you will recall, Pierre Poilievre once upon a time said we're going to defund the CBC. And Canadians, at least conservative Canadians and many others, loved the idea. It's state propaganda that is exploited for political purposes, as we've seen during this election. Once upon a time, CBC, go to the first one there, says, WEF conspiracies surround the World Economic Forum. Why conspiracies surround the World Economic Forum? Back in 2020, 2022, when we were in the early stages of COVID, and we were hearing like, what's this Agenda 2030? You're going to own nothing and be happy, and this is the first step. CBC, Canada Broadcasting Corporation, Crown Corporation, in bed with, indebted to, and beholden to the Liberals, says it's a crazy conspiracy theory.
Weird.
Fast forward 4 years, you now have Mark Carney on the WEF website, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, a man who has not lived there in a decade, who was serving the globalist interests of Europe, anti-populist, anti-Brexit, didn't really do a good job as Governor of Bank of England. You've got your globalist, big banker, WEF, Bilderberg stooge, now running Canada.
And shame on Canadians for not seeing that shit. For not know. Do your research. By the way, a lot of people voted for him. Why? Why? Why?
A lot of people voted for him. I think there's a number of reasons. One is I think Canadians are among the most propagandized people on earth.
Big time.
When your main sources of news are state-funded, bias beyond words, Pravda-esque propaganda, there's only so much you can know. People are living their lives, and that's fine. But there's a Trump derangement syndrome. But there's just good branding. The Liberals make you feel liberal if you vote for them, even though they are the biggest tyrants in Canada.
Yeah, Viva and I were just talking before the show started. There's these charts that came out showing the priorities of every generation in this latest election. Every generation voted with their number one issue being reducing cost of living, with like one of the second highest being making Canada a better place to live, except for boomers. The boomers in Canada had their number one issue being dealing with Donald Trump. Making Canada a better place to live was their lowest ranked priority.
Yeah, they're at the end of their good lives.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
so
selfish.
You have, as in the United States, as in just about every other developed Western country, you have the boomers who inherited the best the civilization ever was, then spent their entire lifetime tanking it to leave absolutely nothing for the generations that follow. But these are people who are looking at the situation and saying, it's more important to me that my government address Donald Trump, the president of another country, than actually do anything for us in our country. And it's insane. But the problem is that there's really no other offerings from the Canadian Conservatives. And that's why I think the Pierre Poilievre comparisons to Ron DeSantis actually are so accurate. And I loved Ron DeSantis.
As a governor, he was great.
I voted for him all through the primaries until he dropped out. I liked what he had to offer. He was great during COVID. He made Florida a very good place to live. That's probably why a lot of us are still here. But he acted like he deserved it. He didn't come out and try to earn the support. He just felt like, oh, the momentum I've built beforehand entitles me to any vote that might have once gone to Donald Trump. Poilievre did the same thing. He came in with the momentum of, munching on an apple, talking smack about the media. Great. Everybody's going to like me. Trudeau sucks. It's not that hard to get a leg up on him. I'm just going to win, right? Well, he clearly didn't earn it. Neither one of them wanted to do podcast appearances. It did not go well for them the few times they did. But they didn't present a viable alternative, which is why the Liberals kept winning.
There was someone who, in response to one of my tweets, said, between a fake liberal and a real liberal, Canadians are just going to vote for the real thing. For me, it was a culmination of years of cowardice from Pierre, where I said for a long time he was a fair weather politician. He'll be on a bandwagon when it's popular and then jump off when it's no longer politically popular. In the time that the election was going on, Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, the Ottawa trucker protest organizers, were convicted of mischief. After the longest mischief trial in Canadian history, Pierre said nothing. Pat King, political prisoner, held in jail for 6 months, more than that, for mischief on pretrial detention. They say nothing. So and then everyone's like, Viva, he can't say anything like that. He's got to wait until after the election. It's like, you're going to lose the enthusiasm of your base if you don't stand up for justice. And who the hell wants a leader that doesn't stand up for the most insane political injustices imaginable? And what happened. And it's a shame for Canadians.
Yeah, it's call for an Alberta revolution. That's my vote.
I think the problem is Canada. The thing that we have here in the States, like such a big country and big territory being like kind of working, like it's very unlikely. Like anywhere else except America, I will always advocate for smaller like land masses with smaller governments that do less things, all right? Most people say, like, I'm for small government, and they just mean that they have less services. Like, if you see Uruguay, you see the UAE, you see those places, they have a sense of cohesion and stability that Canada will never have. Like, the realities of the east side of Canada and the west side of Canada and the way they think. And then, it's projected for the Muslim population to be 18% before 2030.
Yep.
In Canada.
Canada. Oh, yeah, I saw it.
I believe it's at 7% now.
Okay.
It's at 18.
18 before 2030. So that's a crazy number. If you think right now it's like 8.7% in 2001, according to the data that I have here.
More.
So once that happened, there's no sense of cohesion. You need to know I grew up amongst Muslims. I grew up in a Muslim country, but their first loyalty, is their fellow Muslims, all right? It's not the country. And you can see that the UK is going to turn to caliphate, all right? It's already,
the UK is almost there.
Already happening. So unless there's some antibodies or a sense of cohesion, like whoever is like running as the conservative lead, it doesn't really matter unless you have a togetherness or you have like a common myth. And it doesn't matter. All systems can be changed. They can be overthrown. For example, Brandon goes like, "Oh yeah, Alberta should succeed with violence." Like that's not gonna happen because for violence, you need a sense of cohesion and belonging. That is very powerful. That's
not saying violence. I'm saying they have a fundamentally different culture there. Like they have like a Texas America type of mindset.
But
Alberta,
do they have enough? Like, are they gonna put their ass on the line to defend that
fight?
culture?
Like
are they gonna fight?
They don't have any guns.
It's a good thing the Canadian military has been dwindled down to 15,000, give or take, for a country of 40 million.
That is very true, and the logistics of the Canadian military is very dependent on the American military.
Well, just like with every other country we talk about that is completely cooked by governments that hate them and immigration that's wiping them away, it's a complete breakdown of national identity. All Canada's identity is not America.
At this point,
they stand for nothing other than we're not Americans.
Being a little unfair. Like I think regionally they have very strong identities. They have different, things.
All right, name association.
No, but the bottom line is Canada has become absolutely infiltrated by Trump derangement syndrome, and it's the sign of a propagandized people because
Oh,
they were literally
100%.
brainwashed into it. The main issue is like. The immigration in Canada is a wild problem. There are places in Canada that speak neither English nor French and are not Indigenous. Places in Brampton, Ontario, where I don't know if it's Brampton, but the police are literally issuing public statements in Punjab. You have places in British Columbia where you have Indian immigrants saying that the European Westerners should leave Canada. It's theirs now. And then what do you have? You have a so-called conservative who doesn't get up there and say there's a housing crisis and it's because of immigration. Immigration is a terrible problem and we need to not just stop importing, we need to start deporting, and instead comes out and says, we'll reduce it to $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. I mean, people ultimately got despaired, and this is the result of the despair.
It's called being cooked. All right, moving on. Good story, Viva.
Thank you, sir.
Humberto, the Pope. What is going on? Who's next?
What is going on? Well, unfortunately, Pope Francis passed last week. It was on the 22nd, right after Easter. He made it through. Beautiful Easter. People converting to Catholic in numbers we've never seen before. France, Europe in general, because with the things that are happening, for example, in Canada or things that are happening in Europe,
It's bad.
a lot of young people are starting to look like, okay, these guys are organized. We need some sort of structure in our lives, some sort of structures. And once you have, Muslim people, they're not enemies, but they've been enemies, especially of Europe, for a number of years. Like, let's say they did take over almost all of Spain.
A number
right?
of years, he says, that was in like 1200.
Yeah, a number of years. They took over all over Spain. They took over part of Italy. So the defense of Western culture and values, like, sometimes become more active things. And I was reading an article about white people are converting. So that's not here nor there. So he passed, unfortunately, after a beautiful mass that we had during Easter. Actually, RJ, our HR head, was actually there.
He was there?
Yeah, he was actually
Is he
there.
a hardcore Catholic?
I don't know,
I mean,
but
why else would you be there? An
I
event?
I can't comment
Yeah.
on that. But
Good for
so let's go to the first slide. I'm gonna be pointing out some interesting facts
Okay.
and what's happening next. This is a very weird, and it worries me a lot, Vinny, how articles are rewritten online. All right. So they launched the first article, like when Pope Francis passed, and then they use the same page and they rewrite the headline and they rewrite the article on top of it. Like, I had something so common as, like them announcing his death online, like to find an online article to get a screenshot. I don't know if it happened to you before. It was incredibly hard, because all the articles went from like Pope passes to what's happening next.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find any older articles, so I went old school and put out, The Guardian's. I'm not a big fan of The Guardian. And they call him a groundbreaking head of Catholic Church. Pope Francis died at 88.
Groundbreaking.
I brought here a video of one of the rituals. This is a whole process. We're going to go into the timeline for people at home to, learn how this works and the timeline. If we go to the next video.
Well, I saw a movie called Eurotrip, and I know that they smoke the white smoke when they're picking a new pope. But Joe, I don't know if you're going to get to this. Jokes aside, I've heard that he's controversial, and that some people, even religious Christians, don't like him at all.
Black Smoke came out.
All right.
I believe.
That's
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Black Smoke means they didn't pick anybody yet.
That's a very good question, and in America especially, or like on the Protestant, outside world of the Catholic world, they try to give popes political leanings, and there's two camps when it comes to Catholic leaders. You have Orthodox, that they held scripture and tradition to the T, and then you have people that are more they stray away from it. This guy tried to make a lot of changes, and as a Catholic,
Were you happy about it?
I need to pray, like, after he's passing, I need to pray for his soul to go to heaven, and that's what people don't understand. Like, the Vatican is a kingdom, all right, and you're either part of it or you're not part of it. Like, it has an elected, monarch, that's a pope, but it is a kingdom and it's structured like a kingdom, all right.
Can't you argue though that God rejected this pope because the smoke wasn't objectively white? And there was a big argument whether or not it was white smoke or black smoke. So that's supposed to be the determining factor whether or not God accepts the pope. And it was a question whether or not.
And I mean, he was
a shitty pope.
He was.
Was he not pro? Was he not pro-abortion?
Say he was a shitty pope.
Pro-abortion,
pro-trans, and pro-vaccine.
He wasn't pro-abortion at all.
Pro-LGBT.
And the thing is, it's funny because I see fellow conservatives bringing those points up, and I'm not blaming you guys for doing it, but it's funny how they trust mainstream media on all the reports for the Pope. They're obviously going to pick the things they like out of context because this creates conflict. You know, he's a intrinsically conservative figure that, you know, he's a head of a church, and the mainstream media will pick up all the things that can turn people against each other. So, like, if you grab him at face value, like, for example, the big news that he had dinner with some trans people that went there. And he didn't invite them over. They just showed up, you know, and they
Isn't that blasphemy?
They made it sound like he was the guy that called on the trans people to come there. They were just visiting. Like, anyone can go visit the Vatican, all right?
He should vehemently reject that and speak out against it if he's really upholding what the Bible says.
Well, you know, his doctrine, every pope has a different doctrine. His doctrine about these things, he has like a, you know, like a public hospital approach to the Catholic Church. So he was focused on outreach, all right? He wanted the trans people to come in and then live a life of chastity, you know? To not act...
Not hook up.
to not act on their actions. But he will open the church for everyone that wants to come as long as they obey by the rules. So that's why sometimes, and most of the time, all those things that make him look really liberal, which he was in his former life. Before he was a pope, he was very liberal, and he was a man of his time, all right?
It's a powerful position, though, and if you're not, like, fighting for what is good and for what we want, like anti-globalist, then you're not fighting the good fight.
He was born in 1936 in Argentina. The whole South America was taken over when he was growing up by socialist, communist revolutions. Like, people don't grow up in a vacuum, all right? He obviously is going to have a political leaning from his former life.
But you saw how bad that was. You'd think that would make him passionately fight against it.
But not to cut you off, Alberto, this is just ChatGPT. I just asked, what are some controversial actions that he did? Are these true or are these false? I want to know from you. So he blessing same-sex couple marriages in 2023. As a Catholic Pope, is that the Vatican formally approved blessings for same-sex couples in 2023? Mass failure to confront LGBTQ ideology head-on, pro-mass immigration messaging, and I mean, there's a list. A deal with the Chinese Communist Party. The Vatican struck a secret deal with the CCP, giving the Chinese government a say in appointing bishops. Conservative Catholics called it betrayal.
And the main one, I think, would be like being supportive of the COVID jab when vaccines in general and the jab also are made using fetal cells, which should be problematic.
All right, that's problematic, and he's not. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's still human. He's not a godlike.
But is he the say all? Like, if he decides, let's say, if you're a Catholic, old school Italian Catholics, and I know some of them, they were furious that he did it. Not by the way, I could care less.
I was also furious, but the other thing that you need to separate that. His opinion when it comes to whatever concerns me, that is church and doctrine, is one thing, and his opinion outside, he's a human. Anything that he talks about the church or the doctrine of the church, you can get mad about that.
Blessed marriages.
But, anything that is outside of doctrine, like he's another guy, you know? Like anything that is inside the Vatican that has to do with the Catholic Church, that's everyone's matter. Any of his opinions outside of that, you know, popes have been appointed in the weirdest ways. Like, there was a lot of nepotism, you know. A guy was appointed because a dove landed on his head.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. A dove. So that's the guy.
So let's go.
It didn't poop on his head, so he didn't buy a lottery ticket, but they did pick him as a pope.
Let's go straight to the timeline of what's going to be happening and discuss some of the candidates so people are aware. That's the timeline. So basically, the pope dies, right? And the Carmagnolo, I think that's how you pronounce it, like the guy that is in charge of all the business affairs of the Vatican, gets put in charge. He needs to grab a silver hammer. They don't do this anymore, but he needs to grab a silver hammer and tap the Pope in the head 3 times.
Oh my God.
The dead
Pope one?
Yeah, to make sure he's dead. Now, they haven't done that in a while, so they call him by his former name 3 times, and he needs to respond.
They just changed that?
No, they,
Like the Pope before this Pope, did he
some
get hit
of
in the head with
these
a hammer?
No more Pope hammers.
some of these traditions they go back and forth, and depending on the doctrine of the Pope, the decisions are being made. But the silver
like
hammer is
that.
beautiful,
Yeah,
right?
keep it going.
So when he's dead, the first action is he has a ring in his hand. It's called the fisherman's ring. All right. With this ring, whenever he writes a letter or whatever, and this comes, probably 1,000 years, that he will seal the letters
With this-
or the mandates with the ring. All right. So the ring, the first order of business is to destroy that ring, so he can't sign
wow.
anything else anymore.
Wow.
All right. So they need to destroy the ring in front of other cardinals.
Got it.
All right. So that's the first. Catholics are mourning for 9 days, and they need to call a conclave. All right. You guys might be familiar with a conclave. You have it's 9 days of mourning, and then the College of Cardinals, they get locked in. This year they're gonna have signal jammers, drone jammers, RFD
Everything.
covering.
I saw the
everything.
guns that there was one drone jammer that looked like a freaking battlefield.
I actually thought that thing was it shot magnetic
Me
discs.
too.
or
I thought
like
so too.
pieces of
It's-
metal
it's
through
for
magnetism.
drones. It's for knocking drones
Totally
out of the
cool.
sky.
So they locked them in, and this is funny. Last few popes has been 2 or 3 weeks. 2 or 3 days. 1 day for Benedict, 1 day for Pope Francis. That they sit there, they vote, and then the smoke brand that comes out, charcoal, it burns, black. So they will put the ballots. All right, so they get a piece of paper to vote, and it says, "I will vote for this person for the Pope," and they fill it in. It needs to have 2/3 to elect the Pope. All right,
Oh, there
and
it
whenever,
is.
there it is. And whenever they don't get the majority that they need, they will put. They just installed the chimney. It's not always permanent there. This is
Just
16
installed
Chapel.
it. Nice.
And they put the ballots there and some coal, and then it goes black. All right, so it's a signal for the outside world because nobody's allowed in.
Wait, so they're controlling whether or not it's black
Yeah.
or white?
Yeah.
What?
They control it. Cause it's to let the public know because, brother, they're not showing it, they're
Nobody-
not airing it.
they're-
There's
they're-
no
they're-
communication to the outside world. That's their way of saying we haven't decided yet.
Can you imagine being on the inside of all of this very, very, I would say, antiquated or at least specific ritual, being behind, and how serious everyone
Oh,
must
brother, I
take
would
it?
put pink smoke just to mess with everybody.
But if you
Nobody knows.
If you look at the size of the Catholic Church globally, it's what, 2 billion
2
people
billion
almost?
people.
The person who's in charge of making these decisions, it's incredibly influential. So I know there's a lot of and I'm not even Catholic, and I acknowledge this, that this is a very influential role in global politics, where there are heads of state that will listen to the recommendations of the person who takes
You're
this
right.
office.
So influential
yeah.
that they don't even allow people over 80 to vote, so they have to suffer through their decision. All right. So if they make a bad call, a bad decision, they make younger, basically anyone younger than 80 needs to vote. If you're over 80, since you're probably gonna die within the next 2 or 3 years, you can just vote and then just dip.
What's the most influential thing a Pope has done in our lifetime, though? Because I really can't think of anything big.
Pope John Paul II, him
He's
and
the last good one.
and Ronald Reagan, they both worked together to tear down the wall.
Right, that's what I mean. But since then,
very influential.
Yeah, and he was a good pope. He's actually thought he was a good pope. But I'm not overly impressed with any of the popes of our lifetime. Have they done anything cool?
That's the thing, and this is the map. On this side, purple, pink, and red. That's conservative, and then blue and light blue. That would be liberal. They're parading some of the candidates. You need to know that this pope was leaning left, as you might appreciate.
Yep, he didn't like
but
Trump.
you need to. Pope John Paul II appointed most of the guys, being very conservative, that voted for this
Use your
pope.
microphone.
Huh?
Into
yeah.
the microphone.
So-
So you appoint a lot of liberals?
No, Pope John Paul II,
Yeah.
he appointed mostly conservatives, and the mostly conservative people and God elected a mostly left-leaning.
Are they
pope.
like rhinos?
No, they were fully conservative. It was a different time of the church, and they elected this mostly left-leaning guy. So anything can happen now. So people that are making bets on the thing that I think is ridiculous,
Gambling.
they're
I
gambling
want
over
the
this.
black guy. to
Also,
win.
isn't it
How about the-
technically a sin according to Catholic
Gamble?
doctrine?
Well, it's not a
to
gambling,
gamble
it's-
to gamble on the outcome of the Pope.
You're
Oh.
investing in the.
It's also a
likelihood
sin
of
to
an
endorse
outcome.
LGBT marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
Well, hence why I'm not Catholic.
I heard the leading
but-
candidate was that
They
bishop who
contradict
gave the
themselves, so-
inauguration speech to Trump.
Probably.
Bada bing, bada boom.
But
Hey-o.
I don't think he was Catholic. I think he was
Protestant.
Protestant. But anyhow, if you were wondering, anyone that is a Catholic technically can be Pope. They don't.
Oh, sweet.
They don't need to be a cardinal or a bishop. They are, once they become elected Pope, they're made into a bishop first and then into a Pope, because the Pope is a bishop for Rome. So they need to made into that. Other fun facts: if you see the guys with the outfits, that you're gonna see them the next few days, that's a Swiss Guard. All right. That they're actually military, like hardcore military guys dressed in funny outfits.
Cool.
Um,
Like when me and Kelly went to the medieval
yeah.
medieval fair.
They live inside the Vatican.
She was my wench, and I was the knight. No, she was.
They
She was
ha-
my wench.
They
It's a
have
funny
no
word.
contact. And then we're going to get into the Trump thing. That was a big stink. The left-leaning media lying.
I love it.
Lying
He does
as
it on
usual.
purpose.
They're lying as usual, all right? And I looked this up, all right? First of all, I mean, personally, I would have worn a black suit, all right?
Yeah.
That's what I would have done. But the letter that they sent, it was like an appropriate attire for a funeral. And they say dark suit. They don't say black suit, all right?
Yeah.
So technically, he was in a dark blue suit. And this is the picture, these liars, they showed everybody. And once you zoom out, you see that Prince Charles was
12,
wearing...
a dozen people were wearing blue. Me and Jake were talking about. Look at how many blues are out
They're
there.
so
Oh,
funny.
there, yeah.
The Arab dignitaries were wearing whatever they
Bro,
wear.
yeah,
Nah.
the freaking
Can you imagine, when did the left criticize the right for making fun of attire about someone being
Barack Obama in the tan suit during
yes.
his press conference, and
I mean, there's such a bunch of freaking hypocrites, but liars
Viva.
at that.
Last funeral, when Obama was in power, he was a no-show, all right?
Michelle?
Obama didn't show up to the Pope's funeral.
He didn't show
we
up
go-
to this? Well,
Can we go back to the photo?
Yeah.
to this one?
I don't know if you...
I didn't see him. Well, by the way, he's just been all I've been seeing is Michelle with her amazing hair and her brother.
And her traps.
Did Joe Biden go?
Oh yeah, he was in the back. He was
And
in the back.
did Kamala Harris go?
I don't know if
Hell
Kamala.
no.
I didn't see her.
well, it's important to point something out with Biden, and we don't discuss Biden often anymore because
He's
it
done.
feels like a bad dream. It feels like Biden hardly ever happened. But Biden is not a Catholic in good standing with the church.
Oh, of
No.
course.
During his presidential campaign, he was denied communion at like half the congregation,
Good.
half the churches he walked into
Good.
because of his stance on abortion. Because his stance on that issue counts as a mortal sin according to Catholic doctrine.
Yep.
The priest cannot in good conscience administer communion elements or really any other sacrament to him. So the fact that he showed up at the Vatican to mourn the Pope, it's like, well, they probably didn't have too great an opinion of you, buddy. But
Exactly.
whatever.
Well, when you sniff a bunch of.
This came out...
but that's a time honored Catholic tradition.
So, I give Trump a break on the blue suit. All right, it was a dark blue suit. He does. Because I thought he only wore blue suits, but he did wear a black suit for a special event when he invited the black youth to the White House. That was the only occasion that I saw.
that joke dinner too, the Al Smith dinner.
Yeah, but it's very rare that he wears a. He looks great on blue.
He's a gangster, bro.
But
Stefano Ricci.
this thing I didn't particularly like. Can you roll the tape?
Roll the tape.
As Pope? I'd like to be Pope. That would be my number one choice. No, I don't know. I have no preference. I must say we have a cardinal that happens to be out of a place called New York who's very good. So we'll see what happens.
Wants to be Pope.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him wanting to be Pope? Is he a Catholic?
No, he's not a Catholic. No,
I like that job, but because you know why he knows that is a very, very, very powerful position.
And for
I
until
bless everybody. I throw the water.
You just got to be careful, guys, because the last time we had a womanizing head of state who wanted to be Pope, we got the Anglican Church. So
Yeah. Now, to
careful.
defend Trump, I think the first joke was in poor taste, but it was a good deflection for him to not have an opinion on it. So I think that joke that he made at the beginning,
Who's the cardinal out of New York that he's talking about?
I don't remember the name, but he's very popular.
Well, what about the black Pope with the glasses?
That
guy's
Robert
sick.
Sarah, that's my guy.
I love.
That's
he
my
is-
guy.
Is there a market for this? I'm gonna go to
No,
the,
you,
Yeah, you
can
could bet on
Let's
it.
bet after this. I think I like that guy because his stance, his track record. He's anti, like over immigration. No, dude,
I presume there's never been a black pope before.
There've been
I
several,
think it's about
believe.
time. Oh, has it been black?
I mean,
popes?
there's been African popes. I
yeah.
don't see colors, so I want to comment. But there's been African popes. And can you go one back? So this is what it's going to look like if Tsar becomes pope.
Crusade.
Oh,
yeah.
who's that? Who?
All of us.
That's so freaking crazy.
Kingdom of Heaven meets
Yeah.
Stormtroopers.
So that's it for the Pope. So we're gonna have news soon, not later than 25 days.
Wait,
You're
20
anticipating a crusade if Robert Serra becomes.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Which guy's Robert? Which one's that?
That's the.
That's the bishop for Guinea.
Who's the worst choice right now?
The guys from the Philippines. His last name is Tagle. He's by far the worst, and he's leading as favorites.
What? Oh no! So the same as like a Mark Carney type situation.
Like he's as bad as Cardi.
All right, so Grok, take it for what it's worth. No, there has never been a black pope. All popes have the
That's
Catholic
racist.
Church have been European or Middle Eastern descent, primarily
That's
from Italy or
racist.
other parts of Europe. Well, it has been while there have been 3 born in North Africa, Victor I, Metaldes, and Gelasius I. They were of Roman or Berber descent, not sub-Saharan African. The closest modern example might be figures like Cardinal Peter Turkson from Ghana, who has been mentioned as a potential candidate, but no black individual has ever been elected.
That's
pope.
absolutely racist. I don't like it.
Well, I mean, Italians. It's been 217 Italian popes. Like
Yeah,
the,
I'm being funny with the racism, but I mean, I think it's time.
and Italians now they're white. After 9/11, they turned white now.
Yeah, they're all white. But all right. Well, so what date? What date do you think? What date do you think that we're gonna find out? And by the way, are people just hanging out at the Vatican right now outside, just with the waiting for smoke?
Vinny, like it should take 1 day, but it could like the longest that it's ever gone through. It took 3 years. And
3 years.
3
3
years.
years without a pope.
3 years that they were electing the Pope.
Yeah.
And they went to a different town in Italy, and people were so over it. They literally took the roof off the conclave, so they had to be exposed to the weather.
Oh my God.
And they lowered their meals to once a day,
that's
just water and bread.
gangster.
So they made a decision.
My favorite
So I
moment
don't-
in European history was that time where there were 3 popes, all of whom claimed to be the legitimate pope, head of the true church, and they excommunicated the other 2.
Yeah.
And went to war.
That
over
was
it.
actually very common. It's very rare that now we have one pope. There used to be a pope and an anti-pope. And they will
backup
kill
pope?
Yeah, they will kill each other.
And the secret pope.
Yeah, that's fun. Bring that back.
Pope
That's
duels.
fun.
And there's a secret pope,
duels.
too.
It'll be like a new
Pope duel.
series.
Oh, but like the slap contest, I would watch like UFC.
That's how you determine.
Anyway, guys, what?
But I think it's the best interest of the planet Earth for these people to be enlightened by God and to make a great decision that will further Christian values in the planet. Like we might not look eye to eye on everything with the Protestants, but I think having a strong leader of Christianity on the world, how it's turning out, what's happening in Canada, what's happening everywhere, I think it's the best interest for the world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be praying for
pray-
them to make the right decision and to have someone that's going to be a net positive in every topic.
Well, I hope I pray too, because the last guy towards the end, his last stretch was not good. Go
Well,
ahead,
I
go
say
ahead.
all jokes aside, I think we've now seen the consequences of living in a godless society. So whether or not you are religious or consider yourself to be religious, we can see the value of living in a God-filled society and what degenerates in a godless society.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys, great show. We're going to get to Connor and Brandon's story on Friday because we are out of time because of other obligations. Guys, take care of each other. Love each other. And we will see you guys on Friday. Peace and love.
Peace.